This is Felicity, and you're listening to our chapter of As the Story Grows.
Welcome to the next chapter of As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. This week, Drew, Cory, Tyler, Mike, and Damien from Felicity joined the podcast. That's right, the whole band is here. Felicity has been releasing singles and music videos leading up to the release of their Adventure Cat Records debut full-length. When we chatted, the band had just dropped Hit and Run. Since then, they've released 2 more singles, Pendulum and You've Got This. Clips from all 3 songs are in this week's episode. The guys talk about their various musical influences, how a Craigslist ad helped form the band, the origins of the name, and the writing that went into their upcoming record. This was a super fun chat, and I hope you guys enjoy getting to know Felicity.
Trapped at night under the sheets, I lie awake and wondering how you drove away without a care to know how I'm feeling. I projected on the ceiling the way you left me, the way I'm suffering, and I can't tell who's right and who's wrong, 'cause that all night was so long. I'm another hit and run. You never look back at the crash like, did you take a life tonight? Hit and run. I'm lying in the wreck, your back of face, the best one.
The whole band.
Yeah, we're all here. All 5 of us.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, thanks for hanging out. We'll just jump in. You're all hanging out, so just join in.
Yeah.
You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, for sure. I'll go first. My name is Andrew, and I play guitar in the band called Felicity, which is represented by the gentleman around me.
You can go, Mike.
I'm Mike. I play bass. Go around the back, yeah.
And then I'm Tyler. I play drums. I'm Damien, and I'm the vocalist.
Cory, I play guitar.
Awesome. You guys are all in Orlando?
Yep.
Yeah, we are.
How's life for you guys? Florida's been pretty loose on COVID restrictions. How's life been for you?
It's like normal life at this point.
Pretty much any disaster movie you watch, that's amazing for us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's crazy. Florida's crazy.
it's like the Wild West out here.
It's wild because there is like lots to do. Like we're able to go to. We've all probably been to Disney World or Universal in the past year, but it's like the main thing. Like there's still like no concerts and stuff like that. Stuff that we really care about. We've been able to go to restaurants like probably sooner than a lot of the other parts of the country.
In cities, it seems like people are very conscious of, we're wearing masks, of course, but once you get into the more like rural areas of Florida, it's like, what is COVID?
Yeah.
If you're not in one of the major cities, like COVID doesn't exist.
Yeah, and you can go into like a lot of the cities, downtown Orlando, downtown St. Pete or Tampa, and areas where it's like a party atmosphere, and it's just like there's nothing wrong, there's nothing going on, like it's totally normal. Packed. If you guys saw South Beach, Miami, they had to like declare a state of emergency because there's so many people partying for spring break.
That's wild.
Yep, it's Florida.
Everyone's coming here.
But Orlando, I mean, it's nice. We still are like obviously trying to be as cautious as we can. We pretty much just have band practice, and all of us have jobs, and we hang out with each other. But that's really it. We've been filming a lot of music videos to make up for lost time, since we're not really that busy doing other things, and getting on podcasts and stuff like that is always fun too, since we have a lot of downtime now.
That's awesome. Well, if you guys want to go around, how did each of you get into music?
Oh man. I got into music because growing up, my dad was really into classic rock, and I always really was kind of drawn to it. And I always say, I don't know how much of this is true, but I always say that the reason I decided I wanted to play guitar was because I saw the movie Back to the Future when I was a kid, and I saw Marty McFly play guitar at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance, and I was like, that is very cool. That's what I want to do. So I hounded my parents to buy me a guitar. when I was little, and they bought me an acoustic guitar, and I was like, that's not what I wanted. I wanted electric guitar. So, but they were like, whatever, you got to start with acoustic. So I took lessons when I was a kid. I obviously didn't really take it seriously. Wasn't super passionate about it. Eventually they got me an electric guitar, and I got a little bit more passionate about it, but I would always go to lessons, and they'd be like trying to teach me scales, and I'd be like, scale schmales. I want to learn. Teach me how to play Iron Maiden. As I'm like a 9-year-old doesn't even know how to play like a chord. So then I actually in high school I started playing with a group of guys who were all a lot better than me, and we started our first band. And our drummer was like this. My friend Chris. He was like a drum prodigy. He was like learning Rush covers in like 5th grade. And by the time he was in high school, his drum teacher was like, I have nothing else to teach you. Like, you are as good as me. I really don't know what else. So, but he was like my drummer. So I was like, oh man, I like need to step my game up. So that's when I really started taking a lot more seriously. And I was in a band with a bunch of my friends all through high school. And then in college, I was in a bunch of different bands and made my way to Florida for college, and ended up connecting with Damien. And we started this band about 7 years ago.
Nice.
That's my story.
Yeah, nice. Mine's much shorter than that, but that's a great story.
It's a tall tale.
Whole thing.
For me, in terms of like how I got into music, I was always more of like a shy kid growing up and things like that. So, but music was something that I always gravitated towards, and I always felt like emotions from it that sometimes I wasn't able to express that well. And I always found that with music, I was able to do that. So honestly, as I was growing up, I just, got an acoustic guitar, and I couldn't freaking play it forever. Like, and finally I just sat down and I was like, I need to learn. And like I did, I was going to lessons like Drew had said. And like, all I would see was the guy was just wailing on his guitar, and I would watch him for 30 minutes. And I was like, how am I getting better from this? So after, I just was like, I'm going to teach myself. And I basically taught myself how to play acoustic guitar, and then just started writing songs and just naturally writing more music and playing in different bands. I was in a cover band scene a while, but I felt like there was like no out from that. You would always, play someone else's song. So
yeah,
that's where like I started getting into more original, and that's where, like I said, I connected with Drew, and we bonded over the band Finch actually at first. Nice. and
that makes sense.
From then on, then we found the rest of the guys, and the story unfolds of Felicity.
I'll go next. I started playing music when I was a senior in high school. And before that, I really hadn't had much exposure to music or even playing an instrument. But my brother was always in the performing arts and did a lot of theater stuff, which I thought was cool. I liked that he was an entertainer, but I did not have that degree of acting in me. And a lot of my friends senior year started picking up guitar they already had. And one of them had a starter pack guitar and a starter pack bass. And he obviously gravitated towards the guitar. And I'm like, yeah. I have that bass for the summer. I mean, 4 strings seems easier than 6 to learn. And that summer I started getting into it. Didn't really know a lot of music in terms of like a catalog. I just kind of knew what was on the radio, but I thought being in a band looked kind of cool and it seemed cool. And when I got into college, I found a band that I was in for a long time. But after moving to Orlando and that band ending, I just kind of had that itch of, well, I still love playing music. I've learned all of these Red Hot Chili Peppers bass lines. What can I now do with this? And I was thinking of either leaving Orlando and finding another music mecca to try to find something to do in, or let me find a group that's already kind of moving things along. And if I can be a part of that, that would be ideal as well. And that's when I was combing Craigslist and found Damien's very well-written advertisement that I responded to. Within minutes, Damien's like, can we talk on the phone? And then we got on the phone.
We're ready to move. We're ready to move.
Yeah. Boom, right into it. And since then, it's just been being, like I remember thinking being a musician has a lot to do with, playing well and writing cool shit. But I would say the last couple years has really just reminded me that playing the instrument in this is like the smallest part of what we really do. That it's all the other stuff that really goes along that goes into it. So here we are now. And I guess going down the line, Cory would be next, then Tyler.
Okay. So growing up, my dad was also a musician. He played trumpet, piano, organ, guitar, bass, the whole thing. So growing up, there was always like music being played every weekend. He was always playing music around the house, and I was pretty exposed to it early on. And then around 5, he got me learning piano. And then in elementary school, he signed me up for violin. And so all from elementary school up through high school, I was in orchestra, jazz band. And then once I started learning guitar and bass, I realized I like rock bands better than classical music. So I just went in high school, was just in bands all the way through. And then when I came to college in Orlando, I tried to start a band, and then I saw Damien's ad on Craigslist. Beautiful Damien.
There's a trend here.
We're all from Craigslist. It's all Craigslist, by the way. All Craigslist.
He had such fantastic grammar, and he was so polite in his message. I was like, I have to talk to this guy. I have to talk to this guy.
And I felt bad because like I put together these group of guys, and like I was writing all these songs. And then after I talked to Damien, and he was like, yeah, let's do this, I called the guys like, hey, you can keep the songs. I'm done.
With the other bands.
He did that.
Yeah. Just peace out.
All right, we're all ready, Tyler.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
You take a step forward here. You can get closer to the microphone.
So my family is not musically inclined whatsoever. I don't know where I inherited playing music from, but I saw School of Rock. I wanted to play guitar because of that movie. I was playing guitar. I actually hated it. And so when I saw Freddie, I was like, I want to play drums instead because the drums seemed easier being a kid. And then my mom showed me Nirvana, and I discovered Dave Grohl. And I was just like blown away by just his drumming.
Show him the tat.
I got the tat of Dave Grohl on my back.
Oh,
and,
wow.
You got to show him the tat.
Save that for next episode.
Yeah.
The After Dark episode.
Oh yeah, I just like.
That's the name of my Patreon podcast is After Dark. So
All right, well, we got to join that to see Tyler's Dave Grohl tattoo.
Yeah.
And I joined a '90s like cover band. We wrote original music, and I don't know.
So it's not a cover band.
Well, it started out as a cover band, and then we kind of like started writing our own stuff. So that was cool. And yeah, I just kind of taught myself how to play drums, and then I went back and taught myself how to play guitar, and so I can play a little bit of everything. But drums are my strongest. And then I guess I should say I met these guys on Craigslist. I was not even living in Orlando. I was 2 hours south of Orlando, and I somehow found their list, and I emailed them, and Damien called me up. And
Do you want to tell everyone what you were looking for on Craigslist?
That's for the After Dark, too. It was actually pretty cool because Tyler came to a couple of our shows right before he joined, and
When we had the drummer before him.
we had a drummer for him, and at the time he was like, hey, I really want to audition for you guys' band. Here's videos of me playing all your songs. And we're like, oh, this is awesome. Like, he learned all of our songs, and we were not like, our songs were not worth learning at the time.
No.
And but he did, and he sent us videos of them. We're like, that's so cool. But we already had a drummer we had just started working with for a few months, and eventually that kind of ran its course, and we were like going to audition drummers. But I think all of us in the back of our mind knew that like we wanted it to be Tyler, but we still auditioned like maybe 3 or 4 drummers, and
Yeah.
Tyler just felt right. And so yeah, the rest is history. We've had this lineup, like the band's existed for 7 years, but we've had this lineup for like 5 years of it. So that first 2 years was very tumultuous, and since then it's been like, I wouldn't say smooth sailing, but at least it's been consistent, which has helped so much with, I guess, our growth and our longevity over the past 5 years of working together, having that same group of guys kind of like growing together.
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's awesome. So what I've pieced together from your story is you two met, and then you were like, well, we need to find people on Craigslist.
Yeah. We actually used a couple of guys from Damien's neighborhood came, and we're like, let's do this. And after like 2 weeks of practice, we were like, all these guys just like aren't really showing up. And so we were like, we need to find some more serious musicians. And we had Damien and I had a full lineup outside of before this lineup. And we had a drummer we went on tour with before, Tyler. And Tyler's the maybe third or fourth drummer. Mike's the third or fourth bass player. And Cory, originally Damien played guitar and I played guitar.
Yeah.
And then we're like, Damien is wanting to be a front man, and Cory, we brought on Cory to play guitar. So like there's been a lot of evolution over the years. In that first 2 years, there was a lot of evolution of us finding who we wanted to be. And once we put this together, we got to record with Andrew Wade, and we recorded an EP, and it came out so good. We were like, this is exactly what we've been wanting for 2 years, going through this kind of 2 years of transition. And ever since then, we've just been all eyes on the prize, going full forward with that.
Yeah. Was that the Old Habits EP?
So that was actually an EP called Brace Yourself.
Okay, Brace Yourself.
We recorded with Andrew Wade, which was our first experience recording with him. And Tyler joined the band right after that, right after we recorded that EP. And then Old Habits was our first time, all of us this group of people writing music together. And we definitely feel like we took a huge leap forward with Old Habits from where we were, especially having Tyler in the band and having Cory was in the band for Brace Yourself, but he had just joined a couple months before we did it.
Yeah, it was only like 1 or 2 songs.
1 or 2 songs you helped write.
Yeah.
So Old Habits was the first time writing all together and us experiencing that. And then this new record we have written and recorded and we've released a couple songs from was all of us not only having a couple more years of growth, writing together, working together, but also another, writing 10 songs and working with Andrew Wade for an entire month of us learning how to work with him and write with him. And it's just like leaps and bounds every time I feel like we go back to the drawing board. So that's what's really exciting, I think, mostly to us is how much we see the growth within ourselves every time we release a new batch of songs.
Yeah, that's cool. And listening to the discography today, you could hear like the growth and evolution in sound that leads up to the current single. And I'm sure what is on the record to come. You talked about Finch. What are other bands that inspired the sound of Felicity, like early days, or inspiring you now?
Yeah, we're all from like different aspects in that.
Yeah,
I guess for maybe each of us, for me, 90s rock, Chili Peppers, Rage Against the Machine, that's where I found a lot of my groove. But I also understand that when I came into the band, I did audition with playing one of the Finch songs. And I kind of thought, okay, it needs to be a little more straightforward and not as complicated as this Chili Pepper shit that I know. But that was still where my roots kind of were.
Yeah. And
Coheed, right?
When I started Felicity, I didn't know. The music I listened to, which was a lot of early 2000s to mid 2000s rock music. I listened to a ton of Coheed and Cambria, like even though that's like not like our music at all, but like for me as a guitar player, that's a band I've always been drawn to, and it's from like a marketing perspective. I've always wanted to be a lot like Coheed, not necessarily like the musicality, but the way they market themselves and how it's always more. It's just more than just the music with them.
Cult following.
And they have that cult following that's followed them forever. And I love Senses Fail, and I love Silverstein, and I love. We all really bonded over A Day to Remember, which is a hometown band here in the Central Florida area that we get compared to often a lot too. And that's one band that all of us kind of really bonded over. And we're those kids who went to Warped Tour like year after year after year after year, seeing all those Warped Tour bands. So 4 Year Strong is a band that's been really influential to me as a guitar player, and then all the classic rock I grew up listening to. Like I still like the first songs I learned how to play and writing songs. The structure was based off Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and Iron Maiden and all that stuff. I grew up listening to.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar. Like in terms of like I with Mike in terms of 90s. I love the 90s sound for some reason, whether it be pop, rock, whatever it was. Like I always loved that sound. So
there's some examples.
That's really so many examples, like Papa Roach, things like that. Like I love stuff like that.
The Dolls.
Goo Goo Dolls. That's a great band. Like so. But like I was always listening to the radio, so I was always hearing those bands coming up. But a lot of 90s things, early 2000s as well. And I don't know, Finch just had that sound for me that I thought was like really for me, like it was a little bit more progressive during that time, and it was just something that I felt like
ahead of its time too.
Needed to be explored more, and like I still feel like I could always listen to that band and like always love it for what it was, and like that's me.
Most of the bands, like Drew said, are gonna be like
Senses. Like I do like Senses, like how like my writing style. I tried to be a lot like Van Halen and like Hendrix, and like tried to write songs like McCartney and Lennon would, but I also really like Counterparts and like Under Oath and a lot of like that post-hardcore stuff. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's
Cool.
it's an eclectic group of musical interests.
It's a good mix. That's what,
Yeah.
that's what Felicity is. Like
Yeah.
a bunch of
That-
things.
That's awesome. Where'd that name come from? Carrie Russell fans or?
Yeah, yeah. We
There's always a bunch of different thoughts on where this name comes from. It's either a girlfriend,
There was no X.
American Girl doll named
American
Felicity.
Girl doll. But actually, the name came from I forgot the exact book that I was reading at that time, but I had seen the name, and I saw that it was a synonym for Nirvana, and I always loved the name Nirvana just as a band. I thought just the meaning behind it was great, and when I saw that Felicity was like a similar meaning in terms of happiness and what you do, the band was looking for a name at that time, and I had suggested it, and everyone didn't hate that one. You know what I mean? So that's kind of why
Smart.
it stuck in. And as we grew as a band, like we really started like saying like we do really find joy and happiness in playing music. And I feel like the name was always appropriate, you know what I mean? Because it's something that we love, and we love music and we love to play it. And we have Felicity, you know, like when we play. So it's like it's in our hearts, it's ingrained in us. So I always thought it was an appropriate name, and it lasted. So that's cool too.
It's easy to remember too.
Yeah.
One word.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that. You guys put out Old Habits last year in the midst of quarantine. What was the decision to put that album out knowing you can't play shows
That's
or on it?
Funny story. It's a funny story about that.
Yeah.
Funny you should say that.
Well, we put out Old Habits in 2019.
Oh,
And
okay.
So
Just here.
So here's what happened. We recorded Old Habits, I believe, in 2017.
Oh man.
And over the course of 2018, we didn't have a record label. We didn't have anybody. We didn't have support, a manager, anything like that. So we were like, you know, we recorded this music we were really liked. We felt like it was really powerful. We felt like it was a big step forward for us. So instead of just being like, here's an EP, what we did was we released a song and a music video every few months, 3 months, for the course of a year. So over the course of 2018 and 2019, we just released a song. So we released a song Weekend Warrior, and then we released a song called Circles, released a song called City Beautiful, released a song called Call Sign. By the time we had released all of that, people had been like always expecting something new for us. So we released the whole EP in February of 2019, and we released it actually through a record label. So that strategy of us releasing songs got the interest of an indie label called Penultimate Records out of Australia. He wanted to put out the record, so we put it out, and over the course of 2019 we got to go on touring for Old Habits.
Nice.
And like the birthday of Old Habits was really February 2019. Unfortunately, at the beginning of 2020, he decided to close down the doors of Penultimate Records and not be a record label anymore. And because of some issues, it got taken down like off Spotify, off everything. And so there was a time frame where like you could not listen to the record unless you owned a physical copy of it, and it had to get resubmitted. So now everyone thinks it came out in 2020 because if you look at it, it says 2020. But we actually recorded Old Habits in 2017, released it in 2019. After 2019, we went on tour. We immediately turned around and recorded this full-length record, and we got the masters for it in January 2020 for this new record. We're like, 2020 is going to be our year, man. We got this new record. It's so good. And we were just ready to get the ball rolling. And then obviously 2020 and, you know, COVID and everything happened, and the music industry shut down. And we just felt kind of lost, like not sure. Do we put it out? Do we not put it out? But we didn't. We really just focused on like, hey, let's like timing's everything. Let's wait it out. And now we have a record deal with Adventure Cat Records, and we have a manager that we're really excited to be working with, and a PR company working with us. And it's like, I'm glad we waited, because I feel like now we have like the right team around us to really put it out. And we could have easily put it out last year and rushed it. And so we're going to put out the full length record later this year, and Hit and Run and our cover of Watermelon Sugar were the first two songs we kind of released from the record, so you say. And we're going to be releasing a song every couple weeks until the album comes out. So we got a lot. We're working on a ton right now. We've been filming music videos like crazy and been really busy.
That's cool. How'd you guys get teamed up with Adventure Cat?
Management, actually, yeah. So our management company is actually like a subsidiary or like kind of like a partner branch or whatever of Big Picture Media, and so she has like all these contacts. And when she agreed to manage us, she was like, well, let me just start pitching out the record to everyone I know. And Mike Kaminsky and Matt Clark were actually the first people who said they wanted to work with us. But we were like, well, let's keep shopping around, see what we can find. And then after a few months, we came full circle back and was like, well, you know, this is the best one we felt all most comfortable with. And so we just signed the paper probably like a month ago.
In January, I think. Well, it was more like, it was the first people we pitched to, and they said yes. And we were like, well, if they say yes, maybe like
everyone else,
maybe other people say yes. So we don't want to take our first. You don't take the first offer you get. Right?
Well, a lot of these labels also like just weren't signing anybody at the time that we were trying to get signed.
Yeah.
And so they were passing because
still like record labels are still not really. They're still a little bit nervous to sign new bands because that's investing a lot of financial commitment into something when you really don't know when you might, if touring's not happening, when they can really see a return on it. So the fact that they were the first people to really believe in us, and we had such great calls with them when we talked to them, and we were really eager to just want to put it out, and we were almost ready to put it out DIY and just be like, whatever, you know, let's just put it out. And then we went back to it and we're like, well, let's see if they still want to work with us. So we reached back out to them, I think in December, and they were like, hell yeah, let's do it. And
they were probably more excited the second time than the first time.
Yeah. So that brings us to where we are now, and couldn't be happier. I mean, Mike Kaminsky is, you know, a legend, especially in our scene, for all the bands he's discovered. And we saw like the meteoric rise of Neck Deep, and to see like, wow, he was behind that. And so many other these bands like Creeper and bands that we really are into these days. And it's like the fact he believes in us the way he believes in some other bands. We saw it firsthand with a band called Capstan here from Orlando, Florida, who signed with Adventure Cat and now is doing awesome things. So it's like the fact that he's willing to work with us, we'd be idiots not to jump at that opportunity. So
that's awesome. Yeah, the first single, minus the cover, Hit and Run, it's a pretty big sonically, sound-wise. It's a drastic style change. Like there's still pop punk elements of your earlier material, but it's definitely leaning into the hardcore side. Was there a conscious decision to, I mean, is this reflective of the whole record and the direction you're going, or just like, we want to do a hardcore song?
Yeah, the record, the label kind of liked that one as a lead off single. But
introduction.
Record, yeah. The record definitely has that element to it, which is kind of the Felicity sound that has been around for a decent amount of time. So paying homage to that fan base, there's a selection of songs that are in that vein. But then the rest of the album kind of will take you through different things we haven't necessarily done. A little electronic here and there, a little more sentimental, mature sounding, acoustics, just things that deviate away from that are also on this album, just to give that full kind of like cocktail of what we could offer.
Yeah, I think the heavier stuff that we're writing on this album will sound a lot heavier than all stuff that we've done in the past.
Yeah.
And I think like the poppier stuff will, not that we've done too much pop in the past. So I think it's going to show a different shade of this band for a lot of people. And I think it's going to also broaden the horizons for our fan base out there, which is something that we always want to do. We always want to connect with as many people as possible. And while still staying true to ourselves, because a lot of us like to listen to that. Yeah. We love pop, we love pop punk, we love hardcore, we love, metal. 90s metal. Like
I feel like we're always a pop punk band that secretly always wanted to play metal music. And somehow it just ends up in between. And like every album we have a song that's like borderline a metal song. So like at least on Brace Yourself, we have a song called Burn the World that's really heavy. Heavier, and then we have Circles on Old Habits, which is on the heavier side, and then there's this and one other song are probably two of the heaviest songs we've written that are on this record. So. And so we always want to push the envelope, but we always just like writing music that we would want to listen to, and whether that's heavy or whether it's super pop punk or whether it's acoustic, I mean that's all stuff we love listening to. So I feel like this new record there is something for everybody, and Hit and Run is that like smack you in the face, hard rock, borderline metal, borderline hardcore track that we always loved writing. And we always get such great crowd reactions when we do play those heavier songs in our set. So we always love writing them and having those for that's group of our fan base that likes us specifically for that. And that's like a band like we talked about, like A Day to Remember, who kind of does that too. Like they have some pop punk songs, and they have like one of the heaviest, you know, hard rock or metal songs on the record too.
I beg you by your thread. I thought I had it in my hands, under my control, but now I understand that I'm the one it holds.
Is there any lyrical themes or overarching ideas on this album?
I'd probably say this one's a lot more personal than what we've written before with Old Habits and Brace Yourself. Like, we always try to pull personal experiences from it. But in the past, we kind of went broad with like relationships and everything. But this record, we really took like what happened to us in the last couple of years that we don't really like portray out into the public, and really made ourselves vulnerable with it. And some of the songs are very like specific to the events that had happened, and some are a little bit more general that people can all relate to. So it's like, you know, we all go through this.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes us a little more human and not like this off the like branch type of figure you can't interact with. So
we also, you know, I think we grew so much as songwriters from Old Habits. I think Old Habits, like, to be honest, we, like, if we're being completely honest with ourselves, we definitely like rushed doing that record. We wrote those songs. They were ideas we had for a long time, but we definitely rushed, like, hey, we're going to the studio, like, we need to get these songs, whip them into shape as fast as we can. And definitely sometimes, like, thank God for Andrew Wade, who definitely like stuck a fork in us and was like, your lyrical content needs to be a lot deeper. And he worked with us so much in the studio to make Old Habits what it is. And we went into recording this new record not wanting that to happen again, because we learned from that, honestly. And we're like, this record needs to be the best thing we've ever put out. And so we need to like actually dig deep and write stuff that we actually care about and mean. So Hit and Run, for example, is about, you know, a car accident we were in while we were on tour, and we were hit in a hit and run with a driver who ran a red light and hit us. And the song is about the anger that really, I mean, Damien, I'll let you talk about it, because it's really from your point of view.
Yeah, I mean, for that song specifically, it was like Drew said, we were driving back home from a show that we had just played, and a driver just came out of nowhere, just just tail-ended us, and ran past a red light. And literally it was like, I've never had something happen to me and that was that bad at that moment. And just that the band was in the car with me as well changed my whole perspective on life, which a lot of things like that happen to people when, when traumatic experiences happen to them. But luckily everyone like survived it, and, everyone was okay. But just in hindsight, we look back and we're like, shit, man, it could have ended at that point for us. You know what I mean? Like, one of us could have been killed, or all of us, you know what I mean? So, and it just makes you think, how things could have changed. And that song was really inspired from that. And the music video kind of tells a story where you have the ghost in there, and the ghost is basically portraying any one of the guys that could have been in the car at that moment. And they could have lost their life, and just how things could have been if things maybe took a little bit of a turn for the worst. And that song was really just really a lot of frustration with the world, and how like people can just be okay with those things sometimes. And hopefully it opens the eyes for some people and kind of says like, and they understand their actions have consequences, and it can really affect people and, haunt to this day. You know what I mean? So that's that song, but there's a lot of songs. There's a song on that we won't talk about. But,
there's a lot of real personal.
There's a lot of personal songs on there, but I won't say too much.
Yeah, and I also love that like everyone in the band definitely has like their own song on the record. Like, you may not, like, people listening to it may not know who it is, like whose song it is, but like that's definitely like Damien's song when we talk about like the song, songwriting, and like from one of our point of views, one of our story. It's all that is all of our story, but it's really Damien's story, because the frustration and anger of it was his car, he was the driver, the anger that could have potentially killed us and was willing to drive away and not care. We meant nothing, and they got away with it. They never got caught, and the police didn't care to try to help us catch who did it. It was just kind of like, well, you guys are alive and insurance will take care of your car. So be thankful you're not dead. And we're like, but that's not cool. Like, that's not enough for us. Like, we're obviously thankful we're alive, but like this person, we were like, did they look in the newspaper the next day, or did they just not even care that they could have, changed the lives of 5 families and generations of families? So it was really about that, but we all have a really personal song, I think, on this record too, which is really special.
When everything changes, face the dark, be courageous.
You're going to keep releasing singles. You're working on music videos. The album's coming out later this year. Are you looking ahead to we're going to tour in the fall, or just going to wait and see, or do you have plans?
If Ken,
we'll tour tomorrow.
If it comes back,
we want to be mindful and safe of the situation and understand, that vaccines are coming out, but you can still carry it, and we still need to be precautious. So we don't want to put ourselves or anyone in danger. So if things are safer and tours are opening up and we're offered, fuck it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We would love to tour as soon as it makes sense for everybody involved.
It's one of the things that we kind of probably forget about sometimes, that we haven't played a show. I mean, a legit show in a really, really long time. Yeah. And just from the mental point of being in a band, you thrive off of the shows and the audience, that crowd interaction, the post-show hangouts, and just interacting with people after the show, and been completely cut off from that. So it's just still an unrealistic situation for just being in a band trying to make a name for itself.
Dude, it literally felt like the last year that it's just like floating through life, just trying to survive. It's been so weird.
But just even have the potential of, we found management, we found the label, there's a concrete plan for a series of music videos, singles that all strategically lead up to a release, and we're able to create all of this in the middle of a pandemic. So the moment when safe touring is brought back into the picture, you better believe we are finding whatever we can play in whatever city we can play, and just getting back out on the road and doing this thing.
That's cool. Are there things you had to do last year, or things you were planning to do in the coming months outside of music videos and singles, to be engaged with fans and to interact and to keep yourselves relevant or in the eye?
The joys of TikToking, right? The joys of TikToking.
We never had a TikTok before this pandemic.
It probably forced us to, honestly.
It really forced us to get online and be social with that, just making small videos and that's the only way you could get some interaction and get your music out there as well. So that was something we did. We started a TikTok. We started being a little bit more active on Instagram and Twitter. But even at the same time, it's so much easier to be active on social media when you're playing shows, when you have things to be excited about. There was a long lull where it's like, I really want to post something, but we haven't played a show, we have nothing coming out. It's not the same post of
how many times can we post that we miss playing shows? But we also did 2 live stream concerts, which is something we had never done before. So we did one in July, at the peak of quarantine, right when we opened up, and it was just literally us and a sound guy in a venue, and we did a live stream concert back in July. That was fun. And then we did another one in January, which was a lot of fun. Last year we hosted our own kind of music festival, if you want to call that, but it was really just a bunch of bands here in Orlando that we're friends with, and we just wanted to do a big tribute show to Warped Tour, because Warped Tour had just called it quits. So we're like, let's do one night where every band that's we're friends with, we do a show, and each one of us portrays their favorite Warped Tour band, and come out and does a tribute set to whatever Warped Tour band they want to do. So the first year we had Newfound Glory, and we did Census Fail, and there was Story So Far and Paramore, and then so we did a real show, and it was insane. It was crazy. And so fast forward a year and now we're in lockdown and we're like, well, let's do it again and let's see if we can live stream it. So we did that back in January and we did a good Charlotte cover set. That was a lot of fun. And I mean, you do the best you can with a live stream show with no crowd, but it seemed like people enjoyed it. And it was a great way to kind of like at least be out there playing and having people watch us play. But nothing beats the true live show.
You never look back at the crash line. Did you take a ride tonight? I'm lying in the wreck. You left confession mess one-on-one. You can't trust a single soul. Life is a lawless open road. I'm just another hit and run, 'cause it's all you've ever tried.
Thanks for listening to As the Story Grows. Our theme song was written and composed by the legendary Bob Nana. If you like what you hear, subscribe on iTunes and give the show a rating and review. If you'd like to support the show financially, click on the Patreon link at asthestorygrows.com. If you enjoyed this episode, share it on social media with your friends. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening.
I never felt so young